Hi everybody, welcome to this new video for the GenAI Nerd channel. And in this video I want to show you a new tool that was recently introduced by Google called Opal. And it's a kind of an additional tool next to NotebookLM that Google already created, which I think is a tool that a lot of people use today. And I think the power of this tool is its user friendliness. And I think Opal is a bit similar. It's a very user-friendly tool to create what we call agentic workflows. That means with Opal, you can really start creating applications, automatic applications that automate particular workflows. And until now, there were already quite some tools available. And I think N8N and Make.com were one of the most prominent tools. But these tools were what I would call low-code tools. So you still needed to know something about programming, coding to really work with these tools, because you needed to know what is a JSON object, what is an API key. Whereas with Opal, the new tool of Google, I would say this is the first real no-code tool to create agentic workflows, where you can just, by talking with the tool, create workflows. And the nice thing is it immediately also creates then an application for the workflow. So let me show you how Opal works. So what we need to do is to go to the website opal.withgoogle.com. And at the moment, you can only access it via an American IP address. So at the moment, you need a VPN so that you can have an American IP address. So I have put now my VPN on the United States. So that's how I can enter it. So I just need to go to the website. I need to have my Google account. And then I can start creating my own application. So I can now go to create new, and then we can create an application. Actually, Google has here provided a gallery of applications, so kind of templates from which you can start working. And there are quite some interesting ones. So you can also start from an existing template. But now let's just for clarity start from a blank sheet and create our own agentic workflow that can be transformed into an application. So I will click here on Create New, and then we will be able to start creating our own agentic workflow. And how do you start doing it? Actually quite straightforward. Here you can simply explain what you need to build. And this is similar to what we have nowadays with Lovable or Manus. These are other kind of application creation tools. So you simply create what you want to get, and then it will actually automatically create it for you. So let's imagine that I want to create an application that can help entrepreneurs to do competitor analyses. So I want to give a description of what I'm doing, and then this application should do an extensive competitor analysis. So now I need to describe what I want to do. So I can simply say the user will provide a value proposition of a startup. The application should engage in a competitor analysis for this startup and provide specific suggestions on how to differentiate from existing competitors. And so this is still a quite straightforward workflow. So I give as input a value proposition, and then leveraging generative AI, I want in the end as output competitor analysis and specific suggestions. So let's see what happens now. So we can now just simply press enter here. And now you will see that it will start creating a workflow of these different steps. And at the same time, it will already start preparing an application that can kind of execute that workflow. So now we have to briefly wait, and then we will get the result. And so the result is already here. So here on the left-hand side, we can see our workflow. And indeed, it starts with the yellow part, and yellow means this is user input. So here it wants from the user a value proposition as input. Then the blue boxes are kind of process boxes. These are generate boxes, like is mentioned here. These are typically boxes where large language models, in this case Gemini, will be used, but for instance, where also specific tools can be used. So a first step will be that it will perform a competitor analysis. It will use specific tools, so it will search the web, it can search Google Maps, it can get web pages. It can even get the weather. I don't think that's now very relevant, but anyway. And then you see a kind of here, a kind of prompt of what needs to happen in this step. So this is a kind of prompt it will execute. Then it will actually, so this step will be where it actually performs the competitor analysis, and then the next step will be where it extracts differentiation strategies as requested. So here it will rely on the Gemini 2.5 model, and here you can see the prompt, and this is actually quite a sophisticated prompt with some chain of thought reasoning to actually create for me a report. And then as output, this is the output box, it will kind of give that output in a web page friendly output. So in the end, it has now for me automatically created a workflow consisting of 4 steps to do the competitor analysis, transform it, and turn it into a report. And here on the right-hand side, if we now go to app, we can actually see the app already. Let me briefly go back here to the editor part and go to preview. So here we can now simply click to give our app a name. So I can call it something like competitor analysis app. And I can now actually press on start, and now it already asks me to create or to give a value proposition to do the competitor analysis. Now I have created in ChatGPT here, for instance, in a specific project, a value proposition to help people monitoring their energy bills. So I will now just use this value proposition. So it's a gamified AI-driven platform that transforms energy consumption into an engaging interactive experience. So imagine that I want to create a startup. Now I want to know what kind of competitors I have. So now I will enter it as my value proposition, press enter, and now actually it will start executing all these steps. Now this will take some time, so we will have to briefly wait. So let me in the meantime explain a bit more what is going on here. So we see we have given inputs, and you see on the right hand side in the meantime that it's really processing. I have my 2 steps here, and you can see I can change the flow as I want. And of course, I have not done that now. I just fully relied on what Opal created for me. But if I want, I can start editing all these different steps. So here, for instance, if I go to the second step, if I click on that here, if I want, I can start adjusting, optimizing the prompt. For instance, I can say, get weather is not really a relevant tool here, so I can simply delete that. So you can fully customize, optimize the steps. But of course, also here, you could add additional steps if you want. So I can, if I would say next to value proposition, I would like to give additional input. I can just now press on input. And for instance, here, say something like description of the geographic scope or something like that. And then I will have an additional input field in my application. So in that way, I can actually further optimize and the workflow that has been created. So my experience is that it already creates a very nice workflow, but then you can really start adding blocks, creating connections between them. And this is very similar to tools like N8N, but I would say here it's much more user-friendly. Of course, the functionalities are a bit more limited. In tools like N8N, you can connect it to all kinds of external databases with MCP servers or whatever you want to do. Here it's much more limited. You can add some assets, so you can actually add files to your workflow. You can add even YouTube videos to your workflow. So you can definitely add some assets. But of course, in comparison with N8N, it's at the moment much more limited. But at the same time, I think the huge advantage is that it's much easier to create it and much more user-friendly. And you really don't have to have any knowledge of coding to start create your own applications. So you see it's still working. So let us briefly wait for the output, and then I will show you what kind of output you can get from this specific application. Yes, and now the application is ready. So now we can here go to the app mode to see how it looks like. So now actually you can see that the app has generated for me a competitor analysis. So here I get an overview of competitors. And here I also get an actionable differentiation strategies for my startup. So here it gives me specific strategies. Yeah, so here we can see the strategies, and here, although I did not explicitly ask for that, it even gives me suggestions for strategic partnerships. So here it even did a bit more than what I needed. Of course, I could now, for instance, if you look here, I get quite a generic competition overview. So I might have preferred to really get specific company names. So now I could go back to the editor and go to this analysis part. And for instance, here, try to adjust the prompt to make sure that it gives me specific names of companies. So now I can just go here to the edit mode and I could say, give me as output a list of explicit companies, some things like that. And we could even make it more detailed. But here you see how you can easily then start optimizing your application based on the output you generate. And again, definitely the functionality of this tool is at the moment still a bit limited. I'm sure that Google will start giving you the option to enter your Gmail, your calendar, so that you can make much more complex workflows. That's already something that you can do, for instance, in N8N. So I'm sure Google will also allow you to do so. But at least you can now really start no-code experimenting with agentic workflows and immediately transform them into applications. So in that way, I think this is a very nice tool to experiment with. So I hope this video has been helpful to push you to experiment with this specific tool, and I hope you liked the video. If you are not yet a subscriber, please don't hesitate to subscribe. That's always really helpful for the channel. Thanks a lot for the attention. Bye.